Hi there. In this video, we're going to look at creating assignments and then scoring them using PVPA's new grading system. So here I am in PowerTeacher Pro. I'm back in the programming and game design class that I've been using for all of these videos, and I'm on the assignment list screen. And you can see that I've actually already created four different assignments in the gradebook for this class. 3 of them are projects and 1 of them is an exam. And you can see that I've already scored them all because it says 3 out of 3 have been scored. I've been trying to do every Friday as the due date, and I will continue to do that through the rest of this video. Now, a couple of things before we move on and start creating assignments. If I go to the score sheet view, I can see that the overall letter grade for the assignments are showing up here, the 3 projects and the 1 unit assessment, and the system is calculating the term grade for the student. And so I'm currently in the mid-semester reporting period, and so it's telling me that this student currently has a B+, and these 2 students have B's in my class. Now, you can override these when it's time to do report cards, but we're not going to be talking about doing report cards and final grades right now. We're just focusing on creating the assignments. I'll make a separate video closer to mid-semester reporting time that we'll release that will go over what you can and can't do in terms of making your final report cards for a marking period. Alright, so notice that the first student has a B+, the other 2 have B's. We'll see how that changes as we score some more assignments here. Finally, just as a quick review, like I said, I did create 2 new projects in the last video, 2 new categories, sorry, in the last video. 1 is exams, 1 is projects, and I'm going to continue to use those 2 categories for this video here. Alright, so time to get cracking. So my last assignment was due on March 1st, so we'll go to the following Friday. So I'm going to click the plus sign in the upper right, and I'm going to create a new assignment, and I get this pop-up window that has 4 tabs across the top, and we'll take each of them in turn. First, the assignment tab. We can begin by saying what classes this assignment is going to be attached to. The nice thing is that you can create an assignment for multiple classes all at the same time. This is extremely helpful, for example, if you teach 4 sections of the same class, like 4 ELA 11 classes, for example, because you can create the assignment once, blast it all out to all 4 classes. You'll even be able to change the due date for each class separately if you want to. Be aware, however, that when you create an assignment for multiple classes and you're going to attach learning targets to it, all of the classes must have the same learning targets in order to be able to access them. If courses that you're trying to attach to have different learning targets, only the ones that are common to both of those courses will show up, or all of those courses, if you have 3 or more courses you're doing. So only the ones that are commonly shared by all the courses you're trying to attach the assignment to will be available as options when you go to attach them. This is extremely important to realize when I've had a lot of arts teachers that will create an assignment that they're going to do in all of their arts courses, for example. However, some departments, like I know dance and theater, have a common set of course objectives that apply to all of the department. In other departments, they may not necessarily have a common set. They may pull from a common set, but each teacher kind of assigns their own set to their class. The problem with that is if they're given to me at different times and I'm not aware of the fact that there's repeats from one course to another, they may get entered into PowerSchool as separate entries with separate identifiers attached. The identifiers are the codes like ELA.21.co.4, which is the identifier for one of those learning targets. If they were created separately and have different identifiers, even if the text and everything is identical and in your mind they're the same learning target, PowerSchool doesn't see it that way and you're not going to be able to attach to multiple. So I strongly recommend that we use this when you have multiple sections of the same course, but don't try creating assignments across multiple different courses unless you're in one of those departments that just has one common set of objectives for all of their classes. So I'm going to leave this at just the programming and game design. I'm going to create an assignment called sample number 4, and I'm going to put it in as a project, which then automatically sets some of these things down here. For the due date, I'm going to do March 8th. And then we have a place to put a description down in the bottom. The description will show up in the portal, it'll show up in the mobile app, and can be a handy way for students or parents to be able to quickly access an assignment. Please, you can put links in here. So for example, if I had a rubric for a writing assignment and it was in Google Drive, I could put a link to that assignment in here. And I could say, I'm just going to put PVPA website as the address, but you would paste your link from your sharing tab or whatever in your Google Doc, and then it will show up in here. Come on. It'll say click here, and that's the hyperlink that if somebody were to click on that, it would open a new tab going to that Google Doc. Please do not put links to Google Classroom in here. Google Classroom links are different for every student, and they don't work for parents. So that would be extremely confusing if you start putting links to Google Classroom in here. Likewise, don't say check Google Classroom for more info on this assignment, because again, parents don't have access to Google Classroom the way we think, so they can't see any of the stuff that's in there. Only the kids can. I did get some notice this summer that they are preparing to roll out a view-only version of Google Classroom for guardians, but I haven't gotten notice that that's active yet, so stay tuned. As I get information, I will pass that on to you. Okay, moving on. That's the assignment tab. If we go to the Students tab, what this allows us to do is something called differentiation, which allows us to have slightly modified versions of the assignment scaled towards what a student needs to focus on or where a student is at right now in the class. Although all the assignments are focused on the same objective within the class, it may be at different reading levels, it may be at different difficulty levels based on who you have in your class. Another way that you can use this feature is if you have an honors track in your class and you have honors assignments that you expect all of the students to do, you can create those honors assignments in here, only attach them to the students who are doing honors level work in your class. Any student who's not on an honors contract with you wouldn't see the assignment, it wouldn't factor into their grade, it's like it doesn't even exist for them. By default, it's always going to be attached to all the students in your class, and you can see it says that right here and shows the 3 kids in my course. To change it, I have to change from show selected to show all, and then I can go ahead and take a student out if I want to, and you can see it says this assignment only applies to 2 out of the 3 students. And if I switch back over here to show who's selected, now I can see those are the only 2 kids getting this assignment. Obviously I want it to be for all 3, so I'm going to check that back. And that's pretty much it on the Students tab. The Standards tab, Standards is what we call learning targets here at PVPA, and these are those identifier codes that I was talking about a minute ago to you. So I'm going to attach one standard right now, and then I'm going to show you how you can come back and add more if you forget to. A lot of times people will create the assignment and forget the learning targets completely, or they may attach some and then realize they needed to attach another one later. So I'll show you how to do that in a moment. The final tab we have is this Publish tab. I talked about this when I was talking about creating categories. Publish immediately and show the scores is the default, and the majority of the time you're just going to leave that. So most of the time the only tabs you're really going to use are the assignment and the standards tabs. Okay. So if I hit save and close, I'm going to get a little pop-up that says that the assignment was created successfully, and I have a button that allows me to score it. If I click that button, it takes me into the score screen for that assignment. Notice I only have the one learning target here, so I need to go back and I'm like, oops, I forgot a learning target, I got to attach it. There's a couple of ways you could do this. You could go back to either the assignment list or the score sheet and click on the assignment itself to drill into it, or if you're already in the assignment, you can just click this tiny Edit Assignments link up in the upper right. It brings up the pop-up. I go to the Standards tab, and it's showing the one that's attached to my assignment right now. Switch to Show All, and I can attach the other one. Hit Save, and now it adds another column in here. Okay. So, we've given the student the assignment, we gave them the rubric, the students have turned it back in. Maybe even before we go and grade it, it's good practice to go ahead and mark that you received the assignment from the students. The last few years I was teaching before I moved into this role, I didn't have a classroom. I moved around the building all day long, and I had a cart that I brought all my resources with me around with. More than once, I had student work that I misplaced. In the shuffle of moving from place to place, I either left it behind or something like that, and I felt really bad about it. And so I got myself in the habit of never leaving the classroom without recording who did and who didn't turn in their schoolwork to me. That way, even if I lost a piece of paper moving from room to room, I've got it in PowerSchool that the student turned it into me. I know it's my fault that's missing, not theirs, and I'm not going to hold them accountable. Whereas if I marked it missing, and then the student says, I turned it into you, you must have lost it. Nope, I know that couldn't have possibly happened because before I even left the room, I took my whole pile and put it into PowerSchool. Now, marking them as collected is pretty easy. The easiest thing to do is just mark the first one collected and then say fill down, and it will fill everybody in with a collected mark. Then, if there's a couple of students, and hopefully it's only a couple of students, who didn't do the assignment, you can go back to that student and you can say it wasn't collected, it's missing. Okay. In fact, I think if I mark it as missing, it automatically untoggles collected. And if I mark it as collected, it untoggles missing. So it's mutually exclusive. It's one or the other. So I'm going to leave it like this for right now and say, okay, I collected these two and this student didn't turn it in. And I'm going to save those for right now. And then I'm going to go back to my assignment list. Or if I go back to my score sheet, I can actually even see 2 have been collected, 1 is missing, and they haven't been scored at all. Let's create another assignment, and then we'll score things. So this time, I'm going to create Unit 2 exam, put it into the exams category, give it a due date of March 15th, leave that alone, put in a description. There's probably not going to be much of a description for a unit assessment. You're not going to have links to things except maybe a study guide or something like that. Again, I'm going to leave it attached to all 3 students. I'm going to attach both of my learning targets, and I'm going to leave the publishing options exactly the way they are. Save and close. Now in an assessment like this, again, I could mark and say like this student was absent when I gave the exam. This one and the one below both did it. And then save the scores. Okay. Now, once I've actually gone through with the rubric and hand scored the student's work, I'm ready to enter it into PowerSchool. So I can come back and go into the assignment. One way of doing that, if you're on the score sheet view, is to actually click the header and then say go to assignment. By the way, once you're in the assignment, if you click up here, you can change from assignment to assignment really easily. This is a quick way of kind of stepping through the various assignments. So let's say the students didn't do quite as well on this. Let's say that this student got 2s, this student got a 3 and a 1. This student did turn it in, so I'm going to mark it as collected and late. They turned it in before I finally scored it, so I can mark it late now. And let's say they got 1s. Once I have those numbers in, it's time to fill in the letter grades. And we use our little conversion chart that was in our scoring system that was handed out as part of our trainings. So we don't have to do anything about the collected and the lates. They can stay there, and we can still put letter grades over this. So the average of these 2 scores is a 2. And a 2.0 in our scoring system is a C-. So I can enter that by hitting the C and minus key on my keyboard. And if I hit enter, it drops down to the next student. This student got a 3 and a 1, which averages out to, again, a 2.0, which is a C-. Another way I could enter it is by clicking the C and then the minus button over here. It does the same thing. And again, we can move student by clicking these arrows up and down, and we can move column by column by using these arrows here. Or we can use the arrow keys on our keyboard to move around within the grid. So the final student has a 1 and a 1, which averages out to exactly a 1.0. And according to our chart, a 1.0 is a D-. So I put that in, and then I hit Save Scores. Now let's go to the exam and score that one as well. So this student maybe has come back and has taken the test now, so they're good. And let's say that they got a 3 and a 3. this student got a 3 and a 2, and this student got a 2 and a 1. In terms of the scores then, a 3 and a 3 averages to a 3, which is a B. A 3 and a 2 averages to a 2.5, which is a C+. And a 2 and a 1 averages to a 1.5, which is a D. If we go back to the score sheet, we can see that some of these students' grades have changed. Remember, originally, when we started, this was a B+, a B, and a B. And because of these lower scores, every one of these students' grades have dropped down a little bit. Now, there's some interesting things you can do with this screen. For example, if you were having a conversation with a student about revising this unit exam, for example, suppose that we spoke to the student and we said, you know, if you revise this, you can bring your grade up. And we could even sit there and say, like, for example, if you revised it and got a B, notice that this preview grades button is highlighted here, and also there's a gear here saying that something is changing. If I say preview, I can see that changing that from a D to a B would bring your grade to a B-. If I say cancel preview, it gets rid of it again. And if I try to move off of the screen, it's going to say, hey, you haven't saved your grades yet. You want to restore it back to the way it was. But I'm going to just mark this as a D again. I think that's what it was, right? Go to assignment, save and continue. A 2 and a 1 was a 1.5, which is a D. Yep. So the beautiful thing about this is that these are constantly updating as we go throughout the course. You don't need to do anything. The only calculations you have to do is this conversion from your learning target scores to your assignment overall grade. Okay? And again, if you want to review, you can see which ones were turned in. You can see that they're all still marked collected even though you don't see it. Whoops. And if we go back to the sample 4, discard changes, we can see that little flag there is indicating that student did turn it in late. So at a glance we can see that. And when you're actually looking at students and you go to things like student progress, students assignments, you can actually see things like, if I go to that student there, we can see exactly which assignments were turned in late. You can see how many assignments in total were marked late, how many assignments were marked missing, and when your attendance starts happening, you'll be able to see absences and tardies here as well, all of which may influence what happens in your final grades. But again, we're not going to talk about final grades right now. That'll be a separate video. I think we've covered more than enough here. So I hope this gives you the tools you need to get started setting up your gradebook for this year. Please let us know if you have questions. Have a great day.